Boys, it's your favorite casual here. Listen, Islam Makhachev is low-key 3 wins away from GOAT status, okay? Not GOAT of the lightweight division, not GOAT of the modern era UFC. He is 3 wins away from surpassing Jon Jones and becoming the GOAT of the sport. Okay, I haven't posted in about a week or two. I have people in my comment sections telling me to chop chop. Hurry up, boy. Well, fuck you, okay? Here's the new video. UFC 309, let's talk about that real quick. I'm probably going to drop a reaction video in like 3 weeks or so. But all I'm saying is, Michael Chandler, bro, I'm not letting Charles Oliveira take me down at will like that, bro. This Michael Chandler is supposed to be the wrestler, dude. This guy's getting taken down at will and then pulling WWE moves at the end of the fight. I mean, he scared me at that last. He was cheating that whole fight, first of all. I don't want to hear shit. That was like 20 back of the head strikes that the judge or the ref should have caught. But whatever. I mean, Michael Chandler, he loses, and he gets on the mic. He starts talking about like he's a prospect. He wants a shot at the BMF title. Fucking 37-year-old man talking about being a prospect. Get a fucking LinkedIn, Michael Chandler. Anyways, let's talk about fucking Islam Makhachev. Here we go. The win streak. Okay, if Islam Makhachev gets 3 more wins, you can see already he's on a 14-fight win streak. 3 more wins, he has surpassed Anderson Silva's 16-fight win streak. He'll have more straight wins than any person in UFC history. 7 of those wins would be title wins, because obviously he beat Charles Oliveira. He will have defended his belt 4 times. And then probably move up to welterweight, because that's what he's been talking about doing a lot. I know that he can't do that as long as Belal is champion, because Islam and Belal are really good friends. But if we see somebody like Ian Gary or Shavkat beat the welterweight GOAT Belal Muhammad, which would never happen to him for real, but if somebody somehow managed to beat Belal Muhammad, we could definitely see Islam Makhachev move up. And he would already have 16 wins. He should be tied with Anderson Silva right now if it weren't for that fluke knockout loss against Adriano Martins, trying to like test his striking. It was his second fight in the UFC. And then Adriano Martins went on like a 4 or 5 fight loss streak after that. So like it was very clearly a fluke. But Islam Makhachev, 17-fight win streak. That already, in my opinion, puts him in the GOAT conversation, okay? Once you have more straight wins and guys like George St. Pierre, Jon Jones, Khabib, Kamaru Usman, Anderson Silva, I think you're already able to be considered in the GOAT conversation. But let's move on to number 2. We got his level of competition, because not only would he have the longest win streak in UFC history, he is fighting way better competition than guys like Anderson Silva. I almost said GSP, but GSP has a pretty good resume. But I think Islam might have a better resume than GSP. Actually, I think he does, because he has got wins over guys like Volkanovski. He has 2 wins over Volk. A prime Volk, he beat him by decision and then knocked him out in the rematch. I understand that Volk took that fight on short notice, but it was still Volk. Okay, any other lightweight in the world would have lost to Volk on that day except Islam. Charles Oliveira, he submitted Charles Oliveira, the only person I'm pretty sure to ever do that. He already has a win over Arman. Granted, it was Arman's first fight in the UFC, but if he were to win the rematch against Arman, then that's just another win that he has added into his resume. Dustin Poirier, we talk about Khabib's resume a lot. Khabib's best win is probably Dustin Poirier, maybe Conor McGregor actually, but besides the Conor win, his best win is Dustin Poirier. Islam just submitted him, and nobody even talks about it. Okay, he also has smaller wins like Dan Hooker, Bobby Green, Thiago Moises, like really good wins on his resume that people tend to overlook a lot. He's fighting a better level of competition. Volk, who's a top 5 fighter of all time and the featherweight GOAT, made it look easy against him. Okay, beat the active Charles Oliveira, who's on like a 13-fight win streak. Insane resume, underrated, fighting a very high level of competition. And if he were to move up to welterweight, beat guys like Shavkat Rakhmonov, beat guys like Ian Gary, Joaquin Buckley, people like that, then that's just another level that he can add to his resume. Now let's talk about title wins. Okay, currently in the lightweight division, the most anyone has defended their title is 4 times. That was my boy Khabib Nurmagomedov, overhated. Islam Makhachev, with a win over Arman at UFC 311, would beat this record. He would officially have the most title defenses in lightweight history. He's already the GOAT of lightweight division with this record, he would become you couldn't even argue that somebody could be above him. Like you currently you could probably argue a little bit that Khabib should be above him. You'd lose, you'd be wrong. But with a win over Arman, he will officially be the GOAT of lightweight. Move up, become double champ. That's a wins in two different weight classes. So that helps a lot more for the GOAT conversation because when we talk about GOAT, we tend to think of guys like Daniel Cormier, Jon Jones, guys who got wins in two different weight classes. Seven title wins because he got the win over Charles. I don't count just title defenses. I don't understand why when we're talking about the GOAT conversation, we only ever talk about title defenses. Because I don't see why defending your title against against an up and comer is any more important than winning the title against the active champion. In fact, I think winning the title against an active champion is harder than defending your title. So I count title wins, not title defenses. That's all I'm saying. But possibly the best title wins in UFC history. I think Volkanovski to Charles Oliveira might be the best two back-to-back wins in UFC history. Maybe you could count Volkanovski and then knocking out Max Holloway, what Ilia Topuria did. But he has some of the best title wins in UFC history. Dustin Poirier too. If he could go up and beat Shavkat, Joaquin Buckley, Colby Covington, even guys like that, that would definitely help his resume. Most well-rounded fighter of all time. Granted, all of these fights were AI. Okay, none of these fights actually happened. But assuming that they did, this guy outstruck Dustin Poirier. Granted, there was the threat of the takedown, but that's just another part of his game because he's one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. So people can say all they want, yeah, he's outstruck Dustin Poirier, but Dustin was worried about takedowns the whole time. Well, that's what makes Islam so good. He's well rounded. He can strike with you, or he can wrestle with you, or he can submit you. He can finish a fight however he wants to. This guy knocked out Volkanovski. Granted, like Volkanovski, it wasn't the best version of Volk that we've seen, but he still knocked out Volk, who's never been finished before at the time. Now Ilya's knocked him out, but that was also all of Volk's fights in the last 2 years have been artificial intelligence, bro. Submitted Charles Oliveira. I believe he was the only person to ever do that, and he's the best wrestler in the UFC right now. I I think the case is between him and Khamzat Chimaev, but at the very least, he's a top two wrestler in the UFC right now. Might even be better than Khabib all time. I think him and Khabib are pretty much tied. I've heard from Islam's coaches that Khabib kind of out wrestles Islam in the gym. I don't know if that's true. Islam is he's getting kind of old now. I think he's 38, but Islam, one of the best wrestlers in UFC history. And how does he reach GOAT status? How can he surpass Jon Jones? I think there's two paths for him. The first one, which is what I think, unfortunately, the UFC is going to have us do, is defend your belt against Arman, move up and fight probably Shavkat because Belal, like he is the welterweight go, of course, but he's getting old. He's like a 3-1 underdog against Shavkat Rakhmonov. Shavkat might actually win that fight, and then probably defend it against the winner of Covington and Buckley. This right here would make him the GOAT. No questions asked. Belts in two different weight classes, defended both of those belts against up and coming prospects, and two wins over Arman. Arman is going to be, in my opinion, a top three lightweight of all time one day. So, I think Arman beats every single person in the division except Islam. But I think the better alternative that we could have Islam do that the UFC is never going to have happen because for some reason the UFC doesn't like major fights. It's like they don't want to make money. If somebody gave me Dana White's position, his job, I swear I could triple the UFC's growth in like half the time, dude. Because Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev would be the greatest fight in UFC history. That'd be the most high level fight ever. Ilia Topuria coming off knockout wins over Volk and Max Holloway, the only person to ever knock out Max Holloway. And then Islam Makhachev coming off knockout win over Volkanovski, submitting Charles Oliveira, submitting Dustin Poirier, two wins over Volk. This would be the most high level fight ever. They're both basically undefeated except for that one fluke knockout. And I think this would be like a deciding factor in the GOAT conversation. Because I think if Ilya beats Islam, I think he's instantly a top five fighter of all time. If Islam beats Ilya, I think he's instantly number three or number two all time. And then once he beats Ilya, I think he should just move up. I don't think he should stick around and fight Arman. He definitely could. And if he beat Arman, I don't think there would ever be a case for somebody to replace him as the lightweight GOAT. But move up, fight Shavkat, and then literally any title defense at welterweight. I don't even think he needs a title defense at welterweight. I think if he beat Ilya then Shavkat, I would consider him the GOAT of the sport. I would put him over Jon Jones because you look at Jon Jones, the guy has a great resume. Okay, the guy is one of the longest win streaks ever, but he was on steroids for a lot of his fights, which I think kind of discredits a lot of his career. He was on a lot of steroids. He's gotten in a lot of trouble with the law, and also he just wasn't fighting as high of a competition as Islam was. Like he was fighting good competition, but like we're talking about like fat middleweights who were fighting at light heavyweight. Like who is Jon Jones' best win? Daniel Cormier. That's a great win. But Daniel Cormier was like 38 years old and Jon Jones was on PEDs and it was still a pretty close fight. And the second one got overturned. So I just think Jon Jones' resume gets not even overhyped because he's still definitely the greatest of all time, but I don't think his resume is as good as people consider it to be in their head. Because I think 5 years, 10 years from now, we're gonna look at some of those wins and be I don't know if that Shogun Raw win's really gonna hold up against guys like Ilia Topuria. But I think any win at welterweight, like even a guy like Ian Gary, I mean Ian Gary is actually a pretty good fighter, but we're talking about a guy like Colby Covington, Joaquin Buckley. I think that instantly cements him as the GOAT. And I don't think he's going to retire there. I think he would just keep defending his belt at welterweight, maybe even move up to middleweight and get a win. I could see him beating guys like, let me think. I think Islam versus Sean Strickland would actually be a pretty good fight. Not right now. I think right now Sean Strickland would absolutely kill him just because Sean Strickland's so much bigger. But I think 2 or 3 years from now, after Islam's bulked up a bit, that could definitely be a good fight. But let me know what you guys think. All right, I'll try to drop a video in the next like month and a half or something. But I'll see you guys later.